to yet another session of History, Nationalism in Europe. Students, today we are on page number 13. If you see, this page covers the age of revolutions. It means that the years between 1830 to 1848 were the years of an era of revolutions. Many revolutions took place in Europe which shaped the Europe and helped in developing nationalistic feelings and the birth of new nations. So if you see that page number 13, you will see that liberalism and nationalism were increasing in Europe, and they were increasing because of the autocratic and the cruel rule of many monarchs throughout many kingdoms of Europe. So there were many revolutions which took place, and most of the revolutions were led by educated middle class elite people. And the beginning of all these revolutions took place from definitely France. The Bourbon kings which had been ruling over France, they were, you can say, overthrown by the people, by the third estate, middle class, and they installed a constitutional monarchy. I think last year in 9th standard you have studied about this, about the French Revolution. So a constitutional monarchy was established in France, and Louis Philippe, a person known as Louis Philippe, he was made as the head of this constitutional monarchy. So whatever happened in France had an effect overall throughout Europe, and that's why Metternich, this Metternich was a very important influential person during that time. So this Metternich, he remarked during that time that when France sneezes, the rest of Europe catches cold. Means whatever happens in France, that has an overall effect throughout Europe. And because of this upheaval or the changes or the revolution which happened in France, many other revolutions started, a chain of revolutions started throughout Europe. And the first was the July Revolution, which started in Brussels, that is in Belgium, and this led the final of this, the result of this was Belgium got separated from the United Kingdom of Netherlands, and Belgium was previously a part of Netherlands, so it got separated and it formed into a separate, you can say, kingdom and further into a country. Then the second revolt took place in Greece. So previously Greece had experienced many philosophers, many intellectuals and all, but unfortunately Greece had been under the control of the Ottoman Turkish Empire, and this Ottoman Turkish Empire was very strong. And even if Greece had many intellectual persons, intelligent persons, scientists and intelligentsia, then also Greece could not have its own independence. So that's why nationalistic, you can say, feelings were developing in Greece also after the, you can say, revolution in France. And this revolution in Greece got the support of many, can say, intellectuals throughout Europe. Many Europeans, they were sympathizers. Sympathizers means they had kindness, sympathy, pity, or you can say they had an, you can say, loyal attitude towards Greece, and that's why they all supported Greece in its revolution. And many poets, even poets, artists, so such persons also helped, can say, Greece revolutionaries with, can say, money, material, whatever it can be. And even the English poet, the British poet Lord Byron, he, can say, supplied funds by himself, and later he himself was so much influenced that he himself went into the war to fight on the side of, you can say, Greece against the Turks. And finally, in the year 1832, a treaty of Constantinople was signed, and due to this Constantinople treaty in 1832, Greece got its independence. Now coming on same page itself, second last paragraph, if you see that how does, can say, nationalism develop, or how is a country created. So in the creation of nationalism or a, can say, nation, culture plays a very important role. So people, those who feel that they belong to the same culture, they help in developing nationalistic ideas. Along with that, imagination also plays a very important role. The imagination of the people to be culminated or to get together in the form of a single nation that helps in the nation formation. So during that time, romantic artists, poets, they glorified their particular areas and helped the people to develop the idea of nationalism and nation making. So they focused on emotions of the people, they focused on the mystical feelings, means patriotic feelings and holy feelings of the people. At that time, if you come on page number 14, you can see there was a German philosopher known as Johann Gottfried Herder. This Johann Gottfried Herder, he claimed or he declared that the true German culture, which was that was in the common people of, can say, the Europe, the common German people of Europe, and this common people has got a German name, that is Das Volk, DASVOLK. Das Volk means common people, and this German nationality was upkept through various means such as folk songs, folk poetry, folk dances, in all these ways. And in this way, the Volksgeist was made very very popular. Volksgeist means the true spirit of a nation. True spirit means the true idea of a nation, that is Volksgeist. So this word is a German word, and that's why I can say it looks a little bit different. So this was, you can say, brought into way. Then coming on page number 15, if you see there, that language also plays a very very important role. Whenever, you can say, the people have the same language, at the time that helps to spread nationality or nationalistic feelings among them. So vernacular languages were given importance during that time. Vernacular languages were given importance, and these helped in spreading of nationalism. So when Poland was not a, you can say, country, when Poland was not a independent country, at that time also the Polish language was much respected among the common people. Many times the rulers, those who ruled over Poland, they tried to suppress this attitude of the people, this, you can say, holy feeling of the people for the Polish language, but they could not, can say, completely wipe out this Polish language from among the Polish people, and due to this nationalism kept on growing among the people of Poland. There was a very famous, can say, composer known as Karol Karpinski. If you see page number 15, first paragraph, you can find the name. Karol Karpinski, he was a musician and an artist. He used to held various operas and music, can say, ceremonies and all. And through all these operas and music ceremonies, folk dances and all, and folk dances such as Polonaise and Mazurka. So Polonaise and Mazurka. So he brought into practice the feeling of nationalistic symbols. So nationalistic symbols were brought in to develop nationalism among the people. Now if you see the second paragraph of that page, you can see that language influenced the other, you can say, countries of the world also. For example, if you see Polish itself, at that time Russia had occupied Poland, and Russians, the Russian kings, which were known as czars, these Russian rulers, they tried to suppress the Polish language in every possible manner. Whoever spoke, can say, Polish language, they were, can say, put to death. They were given very very cruel punishment, and even the church was not allowed to sing the prayers in the Polish language. It was made compulsory that all the Russian churches, Polish churches, they should sing all their, you can say, prayers in Russian language only. If anybody was seen to say the prayers in Polish language, they were severely punished. Some of the priests and bishops, they were put in jail for singing in Polish language. They were sent to as far as Siberia in very very permafrost conditions and kept there to die in that conditions. But then also these Russians could not suppress the Polish language, and this helped to develop the nationalism in Poland. Now if you come on the third paragraph, you will see it is mentioned regarding the hunger, hardship and popular revolts which took place following that. So the 1830s decade was very very tough for all over Europe, for all the kingdoms, all over all the countries whichever had been formed during that time. The reason for this was enormous increase in the population all over Europe. There was tremendous rise of population during that time, and according to the population, the facilities had not increased, the harvest, that is agriculture, had not increased, and that's why the people faced various hardships. Many of the people, they started migrating from rural areas into city areas. At that time industrialization had started in many parts of Europe, so the people started migrating in search of jobs into factories, industries and all. They started leaving agriculture, and plus in the city side also the condition was not much better. That is because the industrialization was limited, it was not too much, and there was a stiff competition among various industries between themselves. Plus the handloom industries and the powerloom industries also had competition between each other, and due to this the rural and urban conditions both were worse, and the people were suffering due to this. In the rural areas, in the agricultural, you can say, areas, there were feudal taxes existing. Lot of taxes were taken by the local landlords, and due to this agriculture was in a very bad manner. Plus rise of food prices was happening, but this did not benefit the farmers, it was benefiting only the middle persons or the agents, we can say. And due to this pauperism means poverty, was growing all over Europe. Now there was shortage of food, and practically due to this the unemployment increased so much that in some parts of Europe the unemployment rate had, you can say, exceeded almost more than 75%. And that's why people were continuously coming on the roads protesting against their rulers, and to stop them barricades had been erected at many places. But this did not stop the anger of the people, and continuously due to all these upheavals and all that, there was large scale violence all over at many places. You can say the people used to attack the manors, the palaces, the castles and all, and due to this the nobles or the contractors and all that, they had to flee away from their own countries. So such was the condition or the hardship going on all over Europe. Then if you see page number 15, a purple paragraph can be seen there. Besides, it is mentioned about Grimm brothers. These Grimm brothers were two brothers who helped in developing the German language. So they spent almost 6 years traveling from village to village everywhere, talking to various people, noting down their experiences, different local songs, poems and many other dramas and everything. And they combined all these things and made into a 33-volume dictionary of German language. And this helped in developing the German language and further in the unification of Germany. So students, we'll stop here for today. Thank you. Good morning students, and welcome to yet another session of History, Nationalism in Europe. Coming on page number 17, if you see the heading of that page, it is written The Revolution of the Liberals. Now, the year 1848 is very important in the history of Europe. That is because there were many revolutions, you can say, taking place all over Europe, and most of the revolutions were demanding for independent nation states. At that time the concept of a nation was not so clear, and that's why nation states had been formed. Nation states means definitely what? Nation states means the places where the same culture people or same language people were living For example, German speaking people, wherever they were can say combined together to form a nation state. So this was the idea or the concept of a nation state. So throughout Europe, you can say nation states were being formed, and at that time Germany, Italy, Poland and Austro-Hungary, so they were nation states at that time, whereas rest of the Europe, they were just kingdoms. And that's why you can say there was much upheaval or revolts, or you can say anger among the people, because they also wanted nation states for you can say their own identity. And the people also wanted a constitution for themselves, by which the country would be